Good morning, everyone. My name is Ethan, and alongside, darn it, I gotta stop. I hate when that happens,
I'll start
man.
reminding you.
I know too many things at once to watch. I'm Ethan, and alongside me is Jenna Belk, and welcome to the Ethan and Jenna Show. Jenna, how's it going?
Going really well. Today we're talking about sex work and mental health.
Yes.
Because last week we had mentioned it briefly and thought it might be a good topic, right? Because there are people that go to strip clubs or hire sex workers or watch cam girls or guys and feel embarrassed because people make them feel like it's creepy. Or you get people who work in these jobs and people act like they're sluts or trash because they sell themselves. And it's just
They have no respect.
right. So I guess we thought we'd cover this today and see how people are doing that either work in or support the sex industry and see what these views are because, well, just in case anybody didn't know, I used to work at a strip club for a couple of years. I've had a couple different positions. And it helped me get through a very rough time in my life. I found a lot of family there, and I still am very close to several people. Porn is sex work too, yes. And to be honest, sometimes in clubs where it's like legal and everything, they even frown on those who do go further into prostitution and things like that. So it's very interesting, the different perspectives.
I don't get why we shame people for wanting to be sex workers. Wanting, like, right now I've noticed a growing trend is people are attacking users who use that app called OnlyFans, and it's like they're or calling women trash for doing it. Like, so what? Who cares? It's your body, and if you want to show it off and people want to pay you to show it off, by all means show it off. And if I'm being honest, while I wouldn't get totally naked, I have contemplated an OnlyFans, but mainly for comedic purposes, like pictures of, me and my cat or just different goofy stuff that I do. However, I did have one girl reach out to me and message me. She's like, just so you know, I would like you to create an OnlyFans and I will be your first subscriber. I was like, is there something specific you would like to see? And she just wrote everything. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not comfortable enough to do that. Like, I am still shy, like, in that area. Like, I personally can't do it.
That's understandable. When I started working at the strip club, I thought I could never do that. I thought, oh my gosh, like, that's crazy. But after the joke, so I think I told you before, the joke is, what's the difference between a cocktail waitress in a strip club and a dancer? And the answer is supposedly 2 weeks. Because they say it takes 2 weeks before you change over.
Oh, okay.
Because that does typically happen. People say that they can never do it. They start as a cocktail or bartender, and then next thing you know, they're dancing. And it's because once you get into that environment and you get to know these girls, and it just doesn't seem, it's just not as scary. So I think that anybody that does plan on working in a club and thinks that they could never do that, realize that you could change your mind.
Hell, I could change my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I already do occasionally strip on stage, for fun.
Nice.
So who knows what other antics I'll get myself into?
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. I'm not gonna lie.
I bet. I mean, well, it is fun when I would strip and dance on stage. For those that don't know, I used to DJ/MC regularly. And I would do like these larger charity events every year in November. It would be a benefit for Toys for Tots. It would be an adult show, not a kid's show. It was at a bar. But each year I would come up with like a new dance to try and entertain everyone. And then the one year I ended up doing Beyonce Single Ladies. And I stripped down to these pink booty shorts and a little Dago tee. And me and two of my friends had practiced the dance to Single Ladies.
That's awesome.
And we busted it out on stage. But here was the funny part. This is when I lived with my grandma and my uncle. When my uncle gets home and all he sees is three men about 25 years old practicing single ladies in front of the TV doing that little dance thing. And he just like, what the hell are you guys doing? And we're just all like, it's not what it looks like. It just looked so. It was funny and entertaining watching grown men practice single ladies.
I love hearing about just straight men doing stuff like that and being just comfortable enough to not being afraid to be called gay or different or whatever.
For me, it was a struggle. It took time for me to get to that because I have been called gay most of my life, or FAGGOT most of my life. So
as an insult.
Yeah, used as an insult.
Right.
So I mean, we went into this a little bit with toxic masculinity last week, how, I would be judged for not liking football or not being manly, particularly my mannerisms, because I can be more like flamboyant,
colorful.
Exactly. Colorful, or the clothes I wear. Like, I mean, even just there was about a month and a half ago, I had been talking to this girl a little bit, and she told, like, the one day she's like, well, we can cuddle and stuff, but since you're gay, I was like, wait, what? I'm like, do you not like read my Facebook? She's like, wait, you're not gay, but you dance. And I was like, so what? A lot of men dance. And she's like, so wait, you're seriously not gay? I'm like, no, dude, I am not. And I wish people would stop assuming that just because I have some feminine mannerisms, or whatever you want to call them, flamboyance and goofiness, that people will falsely attribute homosexuality to me. And it's, I don't know. It goes into not judging a book by its cover and not making assumptions. With gender, asking someone's gender or how they identify versus assuming one's gender.
Well, so think back to, put yourself in Christian mode, back when you were a Christian, right? Like, I remember making those assumptions because, well, I had to follow the rules, so you have to too. Right? There are these rules that have been laid out for me by society saying that this is what I'm supposed to do as a woman. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you're suddenly unpredictable. And that throws me off. And that's not fair to me because I'm playing the rules of the game. So you have to play the rules of the game.
Right.
That's just kind of how I saw it. So how could we change that view? Maybe
remove Christianity from America?
Since that's not really an option.
I mean, it's usually my Christian friends that are the ones that have such an issue with this. And and that goes into like forcing your beliefs onto other people. Like, dude, at the end of the day, who cares? Let somebody do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
But the problem is you get those dangerous Christians. Like, I'm not going to say his name, but his initials are MP. Those on my Facebook, who have been on my Facebook, know who I'm talking about because I did an interview with him, which is going to be released in 5 days, and I am genuinely terrified of how my words will be used, and I completely regret doing it. But he was one that, for instance, believes all homosexuals are pedophiles. Because, and I quote, if a man is willing to make out with a man, he'll make out with anything. And it's just, and then when he tries to throw in the like statistics or throw them out as facts, I'm like, where are you getting this from? Show me this. But he wasn't able to present anything. It's just, well, the Bible says that. It's like, I don't care. I don't care what the Bible says.
Yeah, so, it's like we generally couldn't understand, though, that people literally did believe completely differently.
Right.
Do you think that had something to do with it?
Sorry, do I think what had something to do with it?
Just the fact that in that mindset, like I truly believed that everybody actually believed the way I did, because that's just how it is.
It is. Christians often make that assumption that they all think alike and that they're all Christians, Or you know what drives me nuts is when someone will say, "You're a Christian, you just don't know it." Like, excuse me? No, you're atheist and you don't know it.
Yeah. But we could say that to some people who we consider like the secular Christians, like the people who just go to church on Sundays and don't really practice in any other way.
That's kind of like what I would say my ex-wife is. I've never heard the term secular Christian, but that sounds kind of like what she does. She watches her church video once a week. It's a very progressive church. On the on their banner or whatever it's called, it says everybody's welcome, LGBTQ friendly. Like, they are a loving church. But yeah, she doesn't really do anything outside of that once a week participation and occasionally praying. She doesn't follow the Bible, and she's very liberal.
Well, come to think of it, I didn't meet many atheists in the strip club.
Oh, that's not surprising.
Really, I was like, looking back, I'm surprised that that's how it was, that I went there and everybody was in general somewhat Christian. Like, there was some kind of God or spiritual belief in general. And if you met an atheist, you get pretty much the same response you would anywhere else. In fact, there were some church ladies who would come in once or twice a month, and they would just bring cookies and be like, "Yeah, we're ex dancers and we found God and we just want to bring you some cookies." And we're like, "Yeah, cool."
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah. But I almost wanted to do that with the ACA when we had time, to get a couple girls to go to clubs here in town as just secular humanists and say, there's more than one option. Like,
right.
The same approach, which was not forceful in any way, but to just go in there and bring cookies or brownies and just say, "Hey, I'm an ex-dancer and I know that it was tough and sometimes you need help learning another way of life, and just want you to know that we're here. We care."
Yeah.
So I wonder if more people can start doing a secular thing like that.
I'm curious, how do strip clubs stay open during COVID? Like, what additional things do they use to prevent transmission?
I just talked to a friend who is still dancing, and they said that they go to clubs, but they only go for their customers. So there's different kinds of dancers. There's some stage dancers, there's floor dancers, and then there's girls with customers who they basically, you text them, "Hey, I'm coming in tonight, come see me," and you just spend all night with them and they just pay to have you.
Wow.
And so she has some customers that she goes to, and so she doesn't even go to the dressing room. She doesn't go and talk to anybody really. She just goes in and out. But she said that half of the people there don't wear masks. Half the time the managers don't wear masks. So it's really, I'm hearing so far that it's not crazy safe. But I'm not gonna lie, some people just need that. So I understand.
I get that. I need, like, for one, I don't need necessarily a strip club, but I do need an intimacy of some type right now. Just cuddling, because for me, these holidays is going to be can't talk. Next 6 weeks is going to be rough, particularly because, as I've said before, it's going to be my first year in just over 10 years where I haven't been with that same partner. So it'll be an interesting holiday season. But I do like I said, I wouldn't go to a strip club, but I do want intimacy, but not necessarily a relationship.
Well, I'm sure there's plenty of cam opportunities, especially now with the pandemic. There's got to be apps all over where you can video with people.
That's true. You can actually use StreamYard for that too. And I know OnlyFans has gone up a lot. A lot more people are using that, which I think is great. If people find ways to make money from home and not have to go into work, by all means. One of my friends, this goes into the Christianity side. She is very Christian, Trump supporter. And she was freaking out and felt really, quote, dirty and ashamed of herself because a guy paid her to show pictures of her breasts. And she was like terrified to tell me this. And I'm like, and when I got it out of her, and I'm like, dude, like, I don't care, man. Go you, man. You just made $2,000 for doing that.
Hell
Hell
yeah.
yeah. I'm fucking proud of you. Nice work.
That's
And
a
she's
lot of
like,
money.
yeah. She's like, wait, you don't think differently of me? I'm like, I don't fucking care, man. I'm like, do it all you want. You are not a bad person. And she's like, well, I've been praying on it and I'm just so ashamed. And I said, look, that is why I have an issue with Christianity right there. It is teaching you to be ashamed of yourself.
You know, that's one thing that I loved about the strip club is it taught you to own yourself. Like I was a cocky little girl. I
Like a firecracker?
Somebody like you'd keep pens in your cleavage, right? Because there's really nowhere else to put it, and with your corset and spandex, and people would pay you for your pen. Can I have your pen? How much you give me for it? You know. And actually, so this is my one like crazy shining moment that I think back to that made me feel really good and really attractive. Was I was a cocktail waitress. I had never actually. I think I had danced in San Antonio a couple times, but I wasn't like a dancer yet. And I had a guy that came in and he just said that I was just his perfect woman and he needed a dance from me. And I was like, well, sorry, I'm a cocktail waitress. You don't get a dance. I'll pay. Okay, how much? You know, he said, I'll pay whatever you need. And so I went and asked my managers. I said, okay, how much should we charge him? And so the managers ended up taking a cut of $500 each. I got $1,000. So it was $2,000 in a VIP curtained booth. I wasn't allowed to take my shorts off because that was illegal to not be a dancer.
Okay.
And it was just one dance. So it's like, that made me feel, I mean, even if nobody else ever wanted to dance for me, that right there just made me feel so attractive and made me feel good about myself. Right. $15. Usually it was about 10 or 20.
By the way, for those watching, if you are interested in sharing your thoughts or comments on sex work and mental health, please call the number at the bottom of the screen, 708-554-7836. Also, if you like what we do, consider becoming a patron for as low as $1 a month. Link is in the description of the video. Also, I would like to thank our patrons, Kenneth Leonard and Expresso Cat. You both rock. Thank you so much. And we do currently have open lines. For those watching on Facebook, there is a link in the description that will bring you over to YouTube. If you could, I see about 10 people watching it on Jenna Belk's Facebook. If you people could please click the link and move over to YouTube, it would be tremendously helpful so we can get this channel monetized.
Yeah.
Hey, that's okay if you can't call, Ronald. Just appreciate you taking the time to listen to us on this subject
and being in the chat, hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, so what would get you to go to a strip club? Like, what would make you want to go? Is that something that you want even?
Okay, so here's where I'm like a little different. So I've gone to strip clubs, but I haven't I've never paid for a dance for myself. And the reason that is because I have this huge thing with I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I don't like lying, white lies, or even faking. So knowing that someone dancing on me would have to pretend to enjoy it isn't something I could enjoy. Like, I would want them to enjoy it as well. I am really weird with that stuff. Like, for example, I had created a post a couple months back talking about how much white lies bother me. And I don't want to say I got some criticisms on it. And I'm like, look, this is just how I feel. I know people everybody lies. We're human, but me, I need brutal honesty. Like, if I look like shit, I want to know. If my outfit's dumb, if I'm acting like a jackass, I don't need an ego stroke. I need people who are going to be completely honest with me. And that's something I could, for example, count on from my ex-wife. She would be blunt about everything. And I prefer that. So I'm not sure why that impacts me in that type of atmosphere. I couldn't do it because I don't want someone faking,
That's so
but
funny.
I recognize, like, it is needed. People need that intimacy. They
Mhm.
need like, when people don't get intimacy, you end up with incels, people who are losing their I don't wanna say their sanity, but they're losing their confidence, and they're being pulled just into a like a black hole because they no longer feel wanted by anyone or anything. They feel completely rejected by society. And that's why we need strip clubs and sex workers to help those people who can't otherwise find that companionship. I had oh, I'm sorry, Jenna.
No, I was just gonna say that strip clubs need people like that too. The honest
Yeah.
people who want the honest relationships, because strip clubs aren't all fake, covers. Some women don't even use stage names. Some women actually go by their real name just because they're not playing a part. Some
Oh,
women do. Some women wear wigs and do it all out. It just kind of depends. But that's the whole point, is that there's someone for everyone.
mhm.
And I was that kind of dancer, and that's why I wasn't really good as a long-term dancer, for my personality, because I was in this kind of the same way. Like, I just couldn't handle the superficial relationships. I couldn't keep up the texting after you leave and acting like you're interested in this guy. And I just didn't want to do that. So when I did have a dance or a customer, something like that, I tried to have one of those honest relationships, and there wasn't enough people like that. So I don't know. I think that you may be surprised. I'm not trying to convince you to go. I'm not trying to convince
Oh, no.
anyone to go, but
I
I think everyone might be surprised what they'd find.
sorry, I would go, because it does have great scenery, and I pay for other people to get dances. I just
Right.
personally, won't get a dance.
That's totally understandable.
But, I think my outlook on sex work has a lot to do with a family member or someone close to me that had some struggles early on. So even though I was a very conservative Christian, this was an area I was open to because he struggled with depression, anxiety, and he went 13 years without a partner,
Hmm.
date, and it was taking a toll on him. I was watching him sink lower and lower, getting angrier and getting more depressed, but he worked so much, he had no time to meet anyone. And when he first told me what he did, I was like, "Oh my god, how could you do that?" But then as I talked to him more and I saw the difference in his mental health, and I'm just like, "What's the big deal? Like, this is fine." And he it saved him so much. It made him, like, every 6 months, he would just go out and get that companionship, and he even said, he's like, "It's not just the sex, it's just laying there with someone too, feeling wanted, feeling that connection."
Hmm.
And it made him so much happier as a person. So, I mean, just seeing that effect on him at a young age, I was like, there's really no reason we should be against this at all.
Well, even just amongst the workers, I mean, each club is different. So the club that I worked at the longest was kind of what we called a dive bar with boobs. So it was kind of small, kind of darker than the big lights shows, and more about the bars and the regulars. And it was there was like this camaraderie amongst all of the women and the men that were there. So I kind of mentioned right before we started the stream that there were, the DJs were typically male, the managers were typically male, the bartenders were typically male, hit and miss there. But then there was a bar back, there was males all over the place, so that if there was a problem, all of them would just jump on it. And I felt very protected there. There was never like one time I got pinched, like this guy just came up and just squeezed the back of my arm out of nowhere and like freaked me out. And then the door guy just ran out, chased him out, and just banned him, said, "You're not allowed to ever come back here." But I mean, so not gonna lie, strange people come in sometimes
Of
and do
course,
strange things, but you can get that at a grocery store.
you can get it literally anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a tendency to attract those strange people, particularly when I DJ in a bar. People love talking to me, so I end up in some of the most random conversations.
It's cool.
It is. Although I will say one of the negatives of being an open person or being somebody that people want to confide in you is when they start confiding crimes in you, and it's like, and like that would happen to me all
Hmm.
the time. It's like, dude, why are you telling me this? I don't want to know this.
Maybe they feel bad about it and they need to get it off their chest.
Right.
Maybe I would recommend. Do you have a journal? Because
I don't.
well, no, I like that's what I would say to somebody who started like confessing to me. Like, when I was a kid and I didn't really have many people to talk to, I had a journal, and that really helped me instead of putting somebody else in a position to where they feel like they owe me time and all that.
Right.
But yeah, so I have some of my best friends, even today, I met at the club. I don't know. I'm not anti any of it.
No, there's no reason to be.
Yeah. And when you don't have the means to have another job, like right now, if I wasn't pregnant, I might have started dancing because I don't have a job right now. I don't have an income. I've applied and I can't find anything. So yeah, there are times when this is all you got,
Right.
But problem is I
Let's do it,
can't do it without drinking.
We'll start an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Atheist OnlyFans.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't narrow it down.
No, I wouldn't either, because then obviously people wouldn't, want to pay for an atheist.
Yeah. Well, but either way, I don't know. I just think there's more to it. I don't think there are a lot of atheist dancers. I don't.
You know what? I'll do a poll on my Facebook later, because
That's a good thing to ask.
For people for OnlyFans, sex workers, strippers, and dancers. Are any of you atheists? I'm surprised we don't have any callers yet. I think this is the first show we've gone this long without callers.
That's okay.
However,
People are shy.
It's still a quite enjoyable conversation.
Yeah.
Clay says you could try online exhibitions.
What is that?
I don't know. Clay, could you perhaps specify?
Maybe Google it.
I mean, I do know this. If I decide to do an OnlyFans, I have to get my ass back in shape, because I can't even do 10 sit-ups right now. It is bad.
I could do pole dancing.
Ooh, there's an episode. Jenna teaches Ethan pole dancing. That would be fun.
It is so much fun, and it's actually not. It just takes practice. It's not as hard as it looks. You just need to get used to it. That's all.
Puck brings up a good point. As much as we are talking about non-stigmatizing sex work, I think it's just as important to talk about how there can be negative mental health effects.
Very good point.
And that sex work can be and has been done in a harmful way.
Correct.
Absolutely. I think it comes down to maybe why the person's doing it. Like, it is someone, if they're doing it out of desperation, just because they need the money, like, yeah, I think that could affect their mental health, versus somebody who chooses to do it because they want to do it. Also, women get put in dangerous situations far more than men, and they can't report it because it's legalized, or illegal. And if they can't report it, something that happened to them, that's going to take a toll on their mental health as well.
Well, it's interesting. So there came a point where I was working there for a while, and I hadn't really seen daylight for about a year. And I came to a point where I started looking around, and I saw girls who came in after me, and they were younger and like fresh and clean girls, right? And then all of a sudden you notice that I don't want to degrade anybody, but suddenly doing a lot more drugs and doing a lot of things under the table, and just not being as safe. And as much as you could say that is harmful, and it is, and it can be, I also think that those kinds of environments coming from a place of addiction can help people get to their rock bottom in a safe place, if that makes any sense.
Could you expound on that?
So, as an addict, I was big into drinking and I had tried to stop so many times and just couldn't do it. Started working at a club and just kept drinking and blacking out and coming back to work the next day. Hey, do I still have a job? I was definitely enabled there, but I was enabled enough that I finally realized that I was sick of doing that. I became sick of that stress, wondering if I had a job the next day, with the hangover and the, not making any money because I spent all of my tips on my bar tab, all of that. So I was finally allowed to get sick of it myself and not have somebody else tell me what to do and tell me that I was hurting myself. I could feel it. And that allowed me to say, you know what? I want to get out of this. I don't want to be like some women who come in and the next thing you know, they're 55 and getting a little bit older and getting less customers and they don't really have anything else that they can do now. I didn't want that life, but I was able to see it and I was able to mess up in a very safe place where I had a bar back. Oh my God. So many good friends babysat me. I think that was, in the end, good for me because now look where I am. I'm 29. I'm 3.5 years sober almost. No more cigarettes. I'm pregnant. I'm stabilizing my life. I'm building a community. I'm working on myself and being healthy from here on out. I'm done. I'm not going to be that 40 or 50 or 60-year-old woman going, I wonder if I had done everything that I wanted to do. No, I've done it. I'm good.
Right.
I'm satisfied.
Jenna, we got 2 callers.
Awesome.
Take our first one.
Go for it.
I don't see a name on this, but it says something about self-image and ductwork. You're on with Jenna and Ethan.
Hi.
Of course they didn't put my name. It's Eve. Hi.
Eve. Your
Hi.
name never works.
I don't know. I literally have no idea. So I wanted to start by saying that I definitely don't want to down talk sex work too much because it definitely has been a really positive force in my life, I think, overall. But since this is a mental health and sex work kind of topic, I think it is important to talk about, like you guys were saying earlier, some of the ways in which sex work can negatively impact your life in that way. Mm-hmm. For example, I think conversely, I know, Ethan, you were saying earlier that you think maybe sometimes if you're going for money, that can be bad. And I think I disagree that is necessarily the bad thing. I think actually the amount of money you can make in sex work is I guess if it is enabling you in some way, that could be an issue.
Sorry, real quick, Eve. I just want to, if I misspoke, I apologize. I meant when they're doing it not for the money, but out of desperation because they have no other options.
I hear you, but at the same time, I'm trans and I lost my old job. Actually, I quit because the conditions were really bad, a 1.5 years ago or so.
Okay.
And in order to afford transition expenses like surgeries and hormones and things, I was kind of in a position where it was my only option, but it was also really liberating for me because having mental illness and stuff, I was able to work from home. I wasn't beholden to somebody else's schedule. I wasn't in one of those situations where I had to promise 3 Thursdays from now I'll be mentally well enough to, spend 8 hours at whatever place. But on the other hand, though, I do think there are some aspects of sex work that can be pretty damaging, having your kind of self-worth based on your physical appearance and how well you appeal to a certain flavor of straight men is
yeah,
really toxic for like your self-image and like how you're aspiring to like change yourself.
May I ask you a question, Eve?
Yeah, of course.
Well, what is it like being trans in the sex work industry? Like, what type of, I guess, a trouble do you run into with, you know, like straight men?
Sure. I mean, there's like a number of things. I think some of them are probably not so specific to me being trans. Like I'll have a lot of customers who are like married or something.
Okay.
But I think that happens for every sex worker. I think it's just, I don't know, a different like focus for them. But like it is really difficult in certain ways when like how I engage with my body and how I engage with my sexuality is one thing, and how these people want and expect me to engage with them is very different and based on like decades of porn that I'm sure they've been watching. That
stereotypes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
they kind of assume because you have the body part they do that you want to use it the same way that they would want to use it. It's really, I'm like, wow, that's a bold assumption. I love when they come in and they're like, "Ooh, I bet you'd love it if I did this, huh? Wouldn't you?" I'm like, oh man, I would love to just sit here and like take a nap while you gave me money, but sure, if that's what it's gonna take, that's fine.
You know, I was one of my conservative friends had shared a post from I'm trying to remember the doctor's name, but she was advocating for teaching porn literacy because unfortunately there are people who watch porn and look for ideas, and they'll try and utilize the things they see in real life when at times it's not really an accurate portrayal of how everyone has sex. So it's important to recognize that what they're doing, they do to just make it look good on camera. It's not about maximizing pleasure for either person. And if we taught that, I think people would understand it better and then not necessarily get their advice from porn.
Oh, definitely. I think there's a really big issue where people, I think the sexual fantasies that people have are probably normal and even okay and like fine to be indulged in, but people extrapolate that and they think that therefore it's okay to try to like, and I mean, if it's all consenting adults in the situation, then it's not a problem. But I think there's a lot of situations where they want to replicate those fantasies in real life, and it's not exactly transferable the way they want it to be, at least.
Yeah, I think this is actually a good time to plug Secular Sexuality is a show that is put on every Thursday night by the ACA on YouTube. I think it's at 7 or 7:30. And one of their tagline, I love it, is "Your kink is not my kink, but your kink is okay." Love that.
Yeah.
And if I recall, Eve, you have been on Secular Sexuality, correct?
Yeah, I've been on twice talking about being a cam girl, and there has been still some kind of inner workings. It's complicated, I guess, of maybe doing some extra work with them, like some sex education stuff. But yeah, I mean, I love talking about trans rights and sex workers' rights and all that stuff. So I'm always willing to hop on a show and ramble for however long.
Awesome.
For those watching, this would be the great time to plug it. I have been trying to put together a roundtable on sex work, and I know, Jenna, you were interested. Eve, you were interested, but I was only able to find one other person. So if either of you know anyone that would be interested in joining the roundtable, or anyone in the audience, please let me know, because I am struggling to find enough people to fill up the seats for this roundtable.
I think we can find you someone.
Yeah, please. I could use 2 or 3 people.
Cool.
Did you have like a specific like thing you were looking for? Like, did you want them in a certain area of sex work, or
any? I just, obviously the more diverse, the better, like with different if like we had a dancer versus someone doing OnlyFans versus someone who is, prostituting, it would be nice to have people from different walks of life. So yeah, anyone that would be interested, I could use the help.
I think people would be amazed if everybody came out about their sex work. I don't know how many times somebody would find out that I was a sex worker in a job that I had. And then people would like come up to me and be like, whisper and be like, hey, I've done something like that too. And it's like so many times I'm like, God, there's just people everywhere that they just don't tell anyone because they're afraid of being shamed. And they probably would be shamed. And it's amazing. A sex worker. I don't care who you are. A sex worker, and you probably care about one.
I know plenty of sex workers, but that's mainly because most of them feel comfortable enough to open up to me because I'm not going to judge them for it.
It's a good thing to have.
Yeah, I try not to judge anybody for anything except how they treat other people. Oh, best name. Yes, I did ask Rudy. Rudy is interested, so I would still need 2 to 3 more people.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
Did you have anything else that you think that people should know about your experience in the industry that maybe people don't think about? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's a good question. Gosh, I mean, I think just generally, I wish people would. Well, I wish we as a culture would do a better job educating people on sex and how sexuality works, like even like a neurological level. I think talking about like how normal sexual fantasies are would be great, because I think we would have a lot less issues of some of these more extreme and kind of like violent fantasies if people were comfortable being like, hey, just because I had that fantasy that seems taboo and wrong socially in my head, it doesn't mean I want to like necessarily do that to a person in real life.
Right.
Yeah, it's just fantasy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I think people just need to be given a lot more freedom to express their honest sexual feelings and like understand that doesn't necessarily mean like, I don't know, it doesn't represent some like deep inner part of their psyche. Like it can just be something that they want to enjoy, and that's okay.
Okay. Well, so I'll take advantage of this to say that I have always had fantasies where, like, as a kid growing up, I would dream and really get off on being raped. Now, I don't actually want to be raped. It was a thing where what I think is that I think that I was sexually oppressed in the kind of the Christian upbringing. You're never allowed to touch anyone. You're never allowed to let anyone touch you, anything like that until you get married. I think that was the only way that I could fantasize about it in my mind without feeling guilty, without feeling like I was doing something wrong, because, hey, it's just happening to me, And I think that might have actually warped it to be that way in my mind. What do you think about that, Eve?
Yeah, no, I think that's actually really normal. I don't know if you've ever, there are a few really good books on like sex and psychology. I'm blanking on the name of the one that I'm thinking of right now, but it's by an author, Esther Perel. And she actually talks about rape fantasies and like group sex fantasies and how a lot of women feel shame around having them because they seem so extreme and almost like misogynistic in a way. Mm-hmm. But I love how this author put it, where she was like, well, if you think about it, in this fantasy, you are casting, the people who are doing this to you. You are deciding the actions that they do to you. You're deciding how you respond to them. Like, while yes, it's a scenario of like power dynamic that is like coming from this concept in your mind, in actuality, how you're feeling and expressing it is very consensual and it doesn't actually involve a loss of consent. So I think people should not feel so guilty and should just be like, I'm turned on right now. This is what I'm thinking about. This seems like this is what's going to get me off. Like, as long as no one else is being harmed in the process, then it shouldn't really matter.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. And I am only asking this question based on the little experience I have with this is only personal experience. Do you think there is some type of tie between people who have had more abusive upbringings and the type of sex they're into? For example, I've noticed, a good chunk of people that I've engaged with, the more traumatic upbringing they've had, the more they fantasize about rougher scenarios.
So to kind of justify that, I think that may be true. I actually was raped before, and after that didn't get any kind of like psychological pain from it, and that confused the hell out of me. I was like, why do I not feel traumatized? Why do I not feel like anything happened? And what I think it is that I had that kind of a traumatic upbringing enough to where my brain was already in that fight or flight mode 24/7. I was already traumatized, and it was almost like that helped me realize how bad my state of mind was, because after I started helping myself, that's when nightmares started happening. And those nightmares were actually more traumatic than the actual event, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Jenna, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I mean, it is what it is, but thank you. But Eve, what about you?
I think, I think that's definitely. I mean, I don't have any like actual data on that, so I don't want to say firmly that.
Yes, none of us are professionals.
I think
on mental health.
What?
Just a disclaimer. None of us are professional mental health workers. We are peers only.
Yes. I mean, from my perspective, I definitely, my dad, when I was growing up, tried to force me to watch like porn, like quite a bit to, I don't know, buoy me up or something. Failed dramatically, but I can definitely say that in response, I think some of my personal sexual tendencies probably do come from that kind of like sexual exposure, sexual environment. So I do think, like what people are exposed to as children, and well, not even just as children, like growing up in general, can drastically impact your sexual preferences. But I also think on that note that like maybe that compartmentalizing it in a sexual way might be like almost a healthy response to those things. You're kind of like taking those situations and putting them into something that you not only are in control of, but that you can enjoy too.
Right. You know, so the reason I kind of brought that up was when I was 5 years old, I was forced to watch a porn. And like it was fucking awkward, man. It was like this older teenage dude up the street, and I was there with like my younger friend. He's like, you guys have to sit down and watch this. And then after we watched it, he asked if we wanted to try those things. And my friend was a year younger than me. He was like 4. And he was like, I could tell he was more jarred than I was. So I just immediately, like, I grabbed him. I'm like, hey, it's time to go home. So I grabbed him and we walked home. And that night I'm sitting down at the dinner table, just like playing with my food in my own zone. And my grandma, like, she knew something was wrong. She pulled me aside and I told her what happened. And, they immediately went to the kid's parents. But the reason I bring this up is because what I had seen in that video is something now in my adult life that turns me on. So would I be into the things I am currently into had I not seen that video? And I don't think so. I think when I saw that video, it did something to my brain that turned it into a turn on for me.
I think there's a reason that we don't expose kids to sex until a certain age in in general.
Yeah.
Kids are so impressionable. That's complicated. I mean, I feel like we would have to bring on some kind of psychologist.
That's what we need to do one episode, Jenna.
Yeah.
Like a psychologist and go over stuff, especially because
There's actually
specializes in mental health.
We actually have a follower who messaged me. I'll have to get her back, but she is on the board of medicine in California. And she said that she wanted to be a resource if we needed it. So I'll have to get with her and see if she wants to be on a show and we can talk about that, because that's just so interesting, the psychology behind it. Like I like being choked. I don't know if that has to do with any kind of, like, I wasn't choked in my childhood, but I was spanked.
Mm.
So I mean,
I'm
choked too.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I know. I can't believe I just said that publicly.
I'm proud of you, Ethan.
I don't like talking about my kinks publicly. It's so like I'm not supposed to do that.
I'm glad that you feel free to. You know, this is why we created this show. Is so I mean, I've never shared half of the stuff I've shared today, you know, but I think this is important that we expose how normal this is. Genuinely, I don't know how many times I brought this up going like, hey guys, so like this is how I feel. And people like, oh yeah, me too. I'm like, really? Huh. That's normal.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's normal.
Yeah, actually too, on the note of like of things to like educate yourself with that, the book that I mentioned earlier, Bethany put it in the chat. It's Mating in Captivity. And another great one is Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. Those are two great books if you're feeling like confused about like your sexuality or like how normal a sexual thing you're experiencing is.
Awesome.
Totally deconstruct like sexuality psychologically. They're like research based. They're great books.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great call.
I agree.
We do got to get to our next one, but Eve, I just went to send you a message on Facebook and I am blanking on your name. Would you mind just sending me a message again so I can loop you into a chat with the few other people for the
of course.
SW roundtable? Awesome.
You got it.
Thank you, Eve.
Thank you for calling, even for being so open and honest. That's very, very helpful.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Bye.
One of these days, our call screener will get St. Eve's name right. I don't know what it is, but her name never gets right when it goes through the
One of these days, we'll get an actual call screener.
That's true. All right, let's get to next caller. It looks like we got Nathan. You are on with Ethan and Jenna. How you doing, Nathan?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was just wanting to call in because I've been trying to give a friend of mine advice. She's a sex worker and she's trying to find love in life. And so I've been trying to give her advice. And,
may I ask, is she asking for this advice?
What's that?
Is she asking for this advice?
Yeah, she is.
Okay.
We talk about love and life and, you know, these type of things.
Okay, cool.
And we kind of talk to each other and we're thinking about having a relationship over the years. She had a relationship with a gentleman for years, an older gentleman that she actually met through sex working.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the clients that she worked with through webcamming. And then after that, they ended up breaking up, and then she met another guy through webcamming, and he ended up being married and was lying to her about being married and broke her heart. And then she met another guy, so she keeps basically dating these men through the webcamming. And my advice to her was, maybe you're looking for love in the wrong places, or maybe you're not. You know, I didn't want to be judgmental about it. You know what I mean? But I told her, you know, when I give advice to friends or people have given me advice about who to date and who not to date, and I've always said, you know, try and find if you're looking for love, then, you know, look in different places, maybe a friend of a friend, or you meet somebody at a library, or maybe an online dating site,
right,
or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Because there's different ways to meet people. I was like, you might not be necessarily, people might not be coming to that site for love, looking for love. You know what I mean? Maybe they are, I didn't want to be judgmental about it. You know what I mean? Because, maybe guys are on there looking for love, you know what I mean? But a lot of guys go on there just for sex,
Right.
And the gentleman that she first was in a relationship with, he was a lot older than her. He was like in his 60s and she was in her late 20s. And they were together like 7 years. But after the first year or two, he stopped having sex with her. And she was like, I don't know why. We're good friends. And for the last 4 years of relationship, he refused to have sex with me. And I was like, I don't think it has anything to do with you. I was like, maybe he liked younger women. And then when you kind of aged out of his fetish age group, he didn't want to break your heart. He still loved you, but he wasn't sexually attracted to you anymore. It had nothing to do with you. And she didn't like hearing that. She thought I was a jerk for saying that. And I felt like a jerk for saying that. But that was like the first thing that popped into my head, And then when she said she had another guy on there, and they fell in love, and then he was lying about being married, I was like, well, he went on there to, for pleasure. And then a beautiful webcam model showed interest in him, and he wanted to see what that was like. And then when he couldn't keep it going, the lie going with his wife anymore, he didn't want to, he had to break it off with you. You know what I mean? Like or maybe I told her, I was like, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? But
that kind of thing does happen. To be fair, it does happen.
Sorry.
To be fair to you, your position, that does happen too often. It does. It's a real thing. It's a legitimate position.
I was trying to give her this advice, you know what I mean? And, I was just trying to tell her to look for love in different places. Maybe you're, not looking in the right place, and she kind of got mad at me and she was like, I don't want to talk to you for a couple of days. And when I come back to talk to her again, after she cools down, I want to know if I should take a different approach, if I already screwed up and told her something I shouldn't have told her, if I was being way too judgmental. And I just don't, I didn't have anybody else really to talk to. And I'm friends with you, Jenna, on Facebook. And I just saw this on here and I was like, oh, this might be the perfect thing to talk in and express how I'm feeling right now about this. So.
Yeah. I know that as a dancer, I didn't want anybody telling me what to do. I didn't want anybody, and even to this day, I don't want anybody giving me advice unless I ask for it. I've had so many people tell me what to do at every stage of my life. And if I ever asked for advice and then didn't do what that one person told me to do, I'd get the response of, well, if you're not going to do what I say, then why ask? Because I wanted to know what you would do, but this thing with unwarranted advice, like I understand, like my partner is trying to get better about that. I understand that men in this country in general have been culturally raised to feel like it's your job to take care of women. And I understand that has been put on you. But it's also probably got to be very difficult for women to be kind of raising ourselves these days in an independent way where we don't want it. And it kind of sounds like that's kind of the position she's taking when she's like, oh, I don't, she didn't want to hear it. Maybe ask her if she wants your advice on a situation and give her the option of saying no and not forcing on her. Maybe she'll come back later and ask, because that's something that I did subconsciously, is I would turn everybody down. And then finally I was like, okay, now I can ask who I want to ask. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We just have conversations kind of in that realm already, because little bit of backstory. I've known her since childhood, and we dated in middle school when we were like each other's first little loves, and then we went off into the world and did our own thing. But over the years, we've always kind of kept in touch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
when she cares about you,
love and she's like, why can't I find love in life? And all these men are breaking my heart and blah, blah, blah. Then I told her, well, this is probably why. So she didn't like specifically ask, but we were talking about it. You know what I mean? And then
so that's the thing, is
the reasons why.
Right. So that's the thing. That's
maybe where I stepped. That's maybe where I overstepped.
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't feel bad. Don't feel bad for that, because you are genuinely just trying to be helpful. Right. But I'm just trying to put out a position that you may not.
I was like, I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't care. Like I'd be like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm only And I was like, I might be wrong. I was like, I could be 100% wrong. This, you know, you're still my friend. I'm just going to tell you what I think, you know, and as my friend back, tell me, hey, Nathan, you're wrong, or you're being a jerk, or this isn't right, or, you know what I mean? But I still just want to tell you what I'm thinking. I don't want to hold this in and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. If this could possibly help you, why would I hold it in? You know, so I want to tell you what I'm thinking, right or wrong, you know.
It might be a good idea to
with my friends or with people in my life. I tell everybody exactly what I'm thinking. So.
Would you like my advice?
Yes, please.
To practice holding it in.
Just practice holding it in.
Yeah. Waiting until it is asked for. Wait until she asks you specifically for it instead of volunteering it. Because I am assuming, and I should not be, but I just, from what I've heard about her, it just kind of seems like similar to me in that way, in that we as women have been told what to do so much and told, well, this is just how it is. I might be wrong, but it might be how it is. Well, I might have thought of that already, you know?
She has such a big heart. She defends every man that's ever broken her heart. She was actually married from like 18 to like 22 or something like that, and he broke her heart. And like all these men always end up breaking her heart, and you know, and I don't know. It's frustrating as a friend. You know what I mean?
I understand.
To see that happen. You know,
it's gotta hurt to watch. I can't. This is it. So many people had to watch.
Never like she.
Well, real quick.
Like she never goes through them. She doesn't do the anger and then this and that, blah, blah, blah. She'll defend them forever, even when they did the most brutal things to her. And I'm like, no, he was the person that did this wrong. It's not you. He was the one lying.
Then don't.
I mean, like she always wants to defend the you know, she's the victim, but she wants to defend whoever victimized her. You know?
Don't put her in that position to where she has to defend them then.
Understandable. Yeah.
Good point.
Because that's what happens is when people try to force kids to be religious, sometimes they stray away. Sometimes when you tell somebody to do something, they're going to do the exact opposite. You know, you tell somebody not to do something, they're going to go do that. That's just that's human psychology.
No, yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to get her to not blame herself for things that are apparent that it was the other person's fault.
That's the thing is you can't.
Where they were the ones that did it wrong and not her, so she doesn't blame herself, keep blaming herself for everything. But I get what you're saying. You're saying.
Like, I understand the wanting to get people to help themselves and wanting people to do this and wanting people to do that. And when I came out of religion, I would just kept telling my therapist, well, if they would just stop telling me this, I don't have any control over that. I can't make them stop. I can control what I do and how I react, right? No matter how much I want them to do this, I can't, you know? So just be there. Just do what you would want, which is just to have somebody just be available.
And wait for her to want the advice and then give it.
Exactly. And this is just peer advice. Once again, not a professional.
Yeah. That's fine. I just haven't really had anybody to talk to about it. So it happened pretty recently. So like I said, I'm friends with you on Facebook and I just saw that on there. I was like, oh, this might be the perfect time to call on and, maybe vent a little bit about it. So.
Well, I'm glad you did. And we appreciate you taking the time to both watch the show and call in and talk to us.
And I hope I didn't force my advice on you. I feel like I did.
I don't think you did that.
Oh, no. It's not like I've been through this situation before, so I don't know how to about it. You know what I mean? It's not like you guys have been in my exact situation, so you don't know the perfect advice to give me either. So.
Right.
But I appreciate everything that you told me.
Yay.
I think I am just going to take your advice and just be in the ear and just, follow. If I want to give advice, that I'll just wait, and when she asks for it, then I'll give it to her.
Yeah, I love it. Let me know how that works. I'd love to know.
Let us know. We're here every Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for
at 11 a.m. So thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Have fun. Good luck.
Sorry about the dog barking. You had said something that kind of triggered a memory, and it like how I forgot specifically what you said, but I have noticed something in like the short time I have been dating and dating again. Why is it that when a man turns down sex, the woman automatically thinks there's something wrong with them?
I think that's an overgeneralization.
Okay, sorry. Any scenario I've been in where I have turned down sex with a woman, I've gotten one of two things. Either are you gay, or what's wrong with me? What am I not doing? And I'm like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But that's unfortunately every single time that the women I've engaged with always think it's them. And it's like, no, I'm just choosing not to. Like, may not be the best scenario. Maybe I don't want to, but there's nothing wrong with you.
That might be because we've been taught to think that men will have sex with anything and everything at any time. And I think that might have something to do with like Hollywood, you know, just the kind of persona, the culture that we've created. Right. I would just be very clear that there is absolutely nothing wrong, you know, just, but I can see how a woman would be very quick to, what did I do?
Yes.
You know?
You're supposed to be a guy. You're supposed to want to all the time.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons that the strip club was very helpful to me, was because it finally gave me a place where I could feel like I was actually a sexy person, and to where if somebody did turn me down, I wouldn't feel like something was actually wrong with me. But that took a lot of years in a strip club until I got that secure. So I can understand how so many women never get that, you know? It's sad.
No.
That we have this culture that women think that they're deficient if a man's not horny.
Right.
That's sad.
Anyways, do you want to get to our last caller?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Cool. Again, no name.
I think it's Killer Pancake.
Is that their actual name?
I think so.
Is your name Killer Pancake? I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Stellar Pancake.
Stellar Pancake.
Stellar Pancake. Okay, so not Killer Pancake.
Erotic role-play video games. Interesting.
So, yeah, what did you want to talk about?
Well, it was about 14 years ago. I started playing on MMOs, RPGs.
Okay.
What do those stand for?
Role-playing.
Okay.
Massive multiplayer online role-play video games.
Okay.
And where you create your character and your outfits, and you have a world to interact in. And I was using that as a way to not deal with trauma. And in one of the games, you could write a biography for your character that other people could read.
Okay.
And I ran into a group of players that were doing erotic role play, mature role play, and had like a guild of members that were exploring and doing role play of all kinds of sexual stuff that I had never. I mean, I've read about, I fantasized about, and explored subjects that I never would have given myself permission to contemplate.
Okay.
Behind a character.
Cool.
And it was a lot of fun, and some of it was traumatic because I didn't have skills to separate myself as an individual from the character that I played. Sometimes, I guess in LARP, in the live action role play community, they call it bleed over, where you put the character, it becomes so real almost that it's I don't know, it's hard to describe right now. I haven't really unpacked all that.
Okay.
But what I'm thinking of now, after 14 years and kind of stuck at home in COVID and personally, I got really good at it, I guess. I had people chasing me around saying, "Don't you want to play?" No, not in the mood. And thinking this might be actually a business opportunity. And I have no idea how to go about looking into that.
Is it something you're thinking about doing?
Yeah,
Somehow?
because I certainly have no desire to do any of that up close and personal with another human. But writing it out and it can get really detailed and involved. It's erotic, and when you are conversing with somebody who's well read or has a good vocabulary, and it's definitely erotic.
Right.
So what is it that you'd like to do?
Cyber, I don't know, role play, but I don't know.
Like make money off of it, or I'm curious.
Thinking of, pardon me?
Were you trying to like create a company or an organization where you can kind of monopolize it, or I'm just curious where you're going.
I have no idea where I'm going.
Are you wanting to try role playing online? Are you wanting to try and make money from it? Like, where are you at right now?
I had thought about using that as an avenue for making money. I did it for distraction. I did it to explore. I did it for fun. I did it, all these reasons. And then I got bored, and it's like, maybe there's somebody out there who would be interested in.
Right.
Are you talking about offering yourself up for pay, or kind of? I'm just confused a little bit.
Okay. Well, if somebody wanted to like have a virtual date, mm-hmm. and then they could say, I would like to meet somebody with, and describe the character, I could create that character, to pretty much their specifications and space, and engage in a private chat where our characters are hanging out. And there's nightclubs in some of these games where that's what's going on, or they have bases where they create their own base where you invite members in and you hang out in the virtual space and have a private encounter.
So kind of like a virtual prostitute.
Yes.
That sounds fun and way less risky.
Way less risky. And for all kinds of stuff like bondage, and just all kinds of things, fantasies without the risk to, your person.
Right.
But it's the whole thing about, consent. And the scary part for me is, not knowing. I mean, you have to kind of go in blind in a sense and expect that the other person is at least upfront about, I am of age. Right. And, there's missions. I mean, if you're in a video game, you can go out and role play without the erotic part, role play characters in a, as heroes or villains, or just walking through town or whatever, a more platonic kind of let's get to know each other, and then let's go back to my base and see what else we want to do.
I mean, phone sex has been a thing, where people create these personalities on the other side of a phone and have basically the exact same kind of encounter, only on a video game. You actually have something visual to work with too.
Right.
So would you like my advice? I again, I'm not a professional, just a peer. But would you like to know my advice?
Sure.
I'd say fucking go for it. But be very careful that you are on an 18 and up site.
Yes. And be careful who you like. You need to verify their age.
Right. Somehow. But shit, I shouldn't say go for it. I would not be opposed. I think that sounds like a good healthy release, because it's the story that most people need. It's the fantasy that most people get the most out of, if just from my experience, from what I've heard.
Especially when you're in a guild with a large group of lesbian vampires. That was really fun.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. So, do you mind if I ask what the game is that you found this on?
It was a game called City of Heroes.
Okay.
And then it came out with City of Villains, and then it got shut down, and because of other things.
Okay.
Ah.
The player base kind of went in different directions, and some went to Champions Online, some went to DC Universe Online, and I went to Star Wars and just played Star Wars for a while.
Star Wars is good.
Okay, so if we have anybody watching that knows anything about creating virtual realities or games or apps or whatever, maybe get with Stellar Pancake and try to come up with a virtual brothel like was recommended in the chat. I'd love to see what would come of this. You'd probably have to get legal involved. I'm sorry?
City of Heroes has come back up.
Is it allowed now?
Well, I mean, there are people that have private servers, and there are people that, there are some servers out there. I haven't been having trouble with my computer, so I've had to uninstall a bunch of stuff. But
it'd be interesting to see if something like that could come into fruition.
Right.
I don't know how it would happen. I mean, strip clubs came to be somehow. That's legal.
And there was another game that I didn't really like it because of the graphics. That was actually probably more. What was the name of that one? Never mind. Anyway, just kicking around some thoughts, and I really, really love you guys' shows and the way you interact with your fans. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, we love you.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah. I love your idea. I love it. I just love the ideas that we get from this. This is just amazing. Ethan, we're never going to be able to stop doing the show. You know that, right?
I hope not. I don't want to quit. I love that we're covering more taboo topics.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for taking the time to call in. I was about to call you Killer Pancake again. Killer Pancake.
Let us know what happens. Let us know if you come up with or find a way to socially interact sexually, virtually. Lately. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Jenna, that was a fun show.
That was, all it takes is a couple callers, and then you just one person can tell you something you had no clue about,
Yeah.
I love it. I love you all.
Same. For those who are watching, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, and share this video on your Facebook page, on your Twitter. Make sure people know we are covering mental health almost each and every week, which is Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And consider becoming a patron for as low as $1 a month. Jenna, what do you have going on this week?
This week, I had mentioned before the show, I think I'm finally getting used to being pregnant. And I'm going to work this week on filling out the FAFSA and trying to go back to school next semester and trying to take advantage of this time without a job so that I can try to learn a whole bunch of stuff and then somehow use that and incorporate that into my activism if I can.
How are you going to have time for anything if you're going to be going to school?
I don't know. But I know that women do it, so we'll see. What about you?
I don't have a lot going on this week, but Tuesday, I have my weekly call-in show, The Perspective, which is now going to be at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. For those of you who don't know, it's not just a show where we talk about supernatural claims. We let people who believe in aliens or have conspiracy theories. For example, this last Tuesday, we had a really good caller. Unfortunately, the caller did believe that COVID, they believe the virus is real, but they think it was cooked up by Bill Gates, the Illuminati, and the Democratic Party, and they are all in some big conspiracy. And also, he thinks Satan is running the entire world. That being said, it was a really good caller. He has got some more evidence he's going to be presenting this Tuesday to back up his claims or evidence. So it's every and then this Tuesday, the two people hosting are going to be Kenneth Leonard and Inquisitive Quandary.
Oh, that'd be a good show.
That's going to be a very good pair.
Awesome.
And then this coming Thursday starts the debut of my new show called The Pickup Line with Hannah Vaughn and myself. We will be giving away a $25 Amazon gift card to the person who calls in with the best pickup line. And the topic for that show is going to be porn and relationships. So
that sounds fun. Hannah's awesome. I cannot wait to see that show.
Dude, we have some great on-camera chemistry together. So if you're looking for like a fun, lighthearted show where people goof around but still educational, check it out. It'll be at 9 p.m.
Awesome. One of these days, we're actually going to come up with a closing line, a sign-off.
Yes. All I can think of is, and remember everyone, take care of your mental health.
I was going to say, you do you.
You do you, and who gives a fuck what anyone else has to say. As long as it doesn't hurt anybody in the process.
Right.
Oh, hey, Pasta Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Everyone, thank you in the comments section for engaging with us and watching the entire show. Blaine, IQ, best name, G.A. Morris. Who am I missing? Unapologetically me. All of you rock and you help make this show. So thank you so much. Jenna, I hope you have a safe and wonderful week.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
See y'all next week.